Are we good? And good afternoon and welcome. I know everybody's still grabbing a seat, but I'd like to kick off our day and welcome to Creating Mejuri, streaming online as well as taking place here at Bayview Yards, Ottawa's Innovation Center. I'm Paula Hopkins. I'm the director of the entrepreneurship team here at Invest Ottawa, and I get to be your MC for this event. What? No standing ovation? Later, right? Okay. I'd like to begin by acknowledging that the land on which we gather today is the traditional unceded territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe people. We are grateful to have this opportunity to be present in this territory and come together as a national community. Further, I want to respect and affirm that the inherent treaty rights of all Indigenous peoples across this land. We recognize the contributions that Métis, Inuit, and all Indigenous peoples have and continue to make, both in shaping and strengthening this community and our country as a whole. Now I'd like to get to know who's in the room a little bit. Who in here, with a show of hands, would really like to see safer communities for women and girls? Nice. If that's the case, you have to go see Women United. They have a booth right at the entrance of the lobby. Please go talk to them to hear about the impact that they are creating to create safer communities for our women and girls. Who in here likes coffee? I should have a round of applause, right? Yeah. Well, then, obviously, if you haven't noticed, we have 850 Coffee over in the corner, creating coffee for you today. And with the weather outside, unfortunately, with that snow and stuff, we've got to wait a little bit longer. But who in here likes gardening and plants? Awesome. So you have to definitely go visit the urban botanist, who is just back here at the back of the room, Emma Terrell, who you will see more in a little bit. And who in this room is an entrepreneur? Who has their own business? Look at that. Amazing. And who in here is an inspiring entrepreneur who wants to create their own business? Awesome. Okay. Well, let me tell you a little bit about Invest Ottawa and the services that we provide for you, entrepreneurs, and those aspiring entrepreneurs. I, as I mentioned, am the director of the entrepreneurship team, and I am very proud of the entrepreneurship team and the work that we do. We provide free business consultations. We provide educational training with over 100 workshops and webinars a year in our education center. We also have programs such as Starter Company, our e-commerce accelerator program, and our youth program called Summer Company. So please, if you have any questions about the programs that the entrepreneurship team runs, you can check us out over at the booth over there in the corner. You may also hear the entrepreneurship team called the SBEC or Small Business Enterprise Center. We're one and the same. So if you hear SBEC or you hear entrepreneurship, it's all the same. But I'd also like to shout out our Venture Path team here at Invest Ottawa. And you can talk to them over at that booth as well. What they do is they provide programs and services for entrepreneurs as well. The difference is the Venture Path focuses on technology businesses, and the entrepreneurship team focuses on those non-technology businesses. But don't worry, they'll take care of you over there. If you have any questions about what we do, they'd be happy to share and help. Now I'd like to thank all of you for joining us today at this event. We are thrilled to have business leaders, entrepreneurs, fellow allies, investors, and partners joining us today. We'd also like to thank our title event sponsor, BDC's Capital Thrive Venture Fund, and our supporting partner, Futurepreneur Canada, for making this event possible today. And as you all know, today is the last day of March. Believe it or not, that went really fast, right? It is the last day of March, which means this is our final event, the finale for our International Women's Month event programming. International Women's Month is truly all about community. Our goal is to maximize our collective impact on current and inspiring women leaders from every walk of life here at home and around the world. Now, in our 7th year, International Women's Month is building a community that is committed to inspiring, equipping, and empowering women leaders in every professional field, from entrepreneurship, innovation, technology, to academia, government, and non-for-profit. This month is not just a series of events. It is a powerful driver for long-term sustainable change to our community and to the world. Throughout International Women's Month, we are honored to collaborate with dozens of local and global partners who join us to realize this vision. Thank you all for joining us and being part of our journey. It will take people working together as a unified force to drive change. And that is at the heart of International Women's Month. Now I'd like to go through a few housekeeping items. For those of you who are not familiar with our space, washrooms are just down these stairs to the left and also down those stairs in front of reception. We will also be taking questions from the audience the last 15 minutes of our fireside chat. And so the way that will work is if you are online, please drop your question in the YouTube chat. And if you are in person here, you'll just raise your hand and my colleagues here, Sarah and Sabrina, will come to you with a microphone. So start thinking of those questions. We will also be taking some snapshots and video footage, as you've probably noticed. So just make sure to smile when they come your way. We also encourage you to definitely share your experience here on social media. Please use the hashtags IWM2025 and hashtag Accelerate Action. As always, we would love your feedback. And you will get a chance to provide your feedback to us. At the end of our session, you will notice that we will put up a QR code on the big screen here for you to provide feedback. And for those of us joining us online, you will get a QR code in your chat as well. But please, we really do appreciate the feedback that you give us, because it's you that helps us create the programming that is most impactful for you. So there will be a chance for that. And then finally, the most exciting is we have the most exciting here, but the most exciting is we have $1,500 worth of gift prizes at the end. So you might get an opportunity to get some product from our keynote speaker today as giveaways. So we will do more at the end. So you'll definitely want to stick around for that. So with all that, let's kick this day off. I would like to welcome to the stage our president and CEO of Invest Ottawa, Sonia Shorey, so she can speak on behalf of BDC.
Thank you so much, Paula. Bonjour tout le monde. Welcome to your Innovation Hub. You know, when I look back on the incredible journey of International Women's Month over the last 7 years, it has always been about working together with community for community to elevate women from every single walk of life and every single field together as an ecosystem with men, women, non-binary leaders, people from every walk of life. So thank you for bringing this vision to reality and for joining us here today. It does take a village to build entrepreneurs, to build companies, to build a stronger, more equitable, thriving, and prosperous economy. And when I extend my deep thanks to the lead sponsor for International Women's Month, 3 years running, and to this very special event, which I want to extend deep thanks to my dear friend, Karen Grieve-Young, who at Futurepreneur is a champion who is driving someone I admire very much. And she, together with BDC, are really the reason that this event was able to take flight. As we really come together, it's with immense gratitude that I do want to extend deep thanks to Mona Minhas and Michelle Scarborough of BDC Capital's Thrive platform for their unwavering support over the last 3 years. They have been our lead sponsor, a dedicated champion, and a driving force for equity and opportunity for women founders across this country. Their steadfast commitment has been instrumental in advancing and accelerating women through all stages of growth, helping them to secure the much needed investment that they require to grow and thrive and take on the world. That includes founders here in Ottawa and across Canada. The Thrive platform stands as a beacon of progress and empowerment. Launched in 2022, it represents a monumental $500 million in investment, the largest of its kind targeting women founders on planet Earth, dedicated to propelling women-led businesses toward accelerating growth, lasting impact, and revenue generation. This comprehensive platform encompasses 3 pivotal components. The first, the Thrive Venture Fund for Women, a commitment of $300 million. This fund focuses on direct investments in women-led technology companies at the seed, Series A and B stages, fostering innovation across diverse sectors. Secondly, the Thrive Lab for Women, allocating $100 million. The Thrive Lab collaborates with ecosystem partners to support women-led businesses with promising models aimed at creating positive social change, addressing critical gaps at the earliest stages of development. And thirdly, the indirect investment envelope, also valued at $100 million. This initiative invests in women-led and focused general partners nationwide, reinforcing BDC Capital's leadership in diversity, equity, and inclusion. The impact of the Thrive platform is profound. By providing substantive financial resources and strategic support and collaboration, BDC Capital is not only breaking down barriers that have historically and continue to hinder women entrepreneurs, but also by fostering an environment where their businesses can flourish and become global leaders. This initiative is a testament to BDC's mission to empower a nation of dreamers and doers, paving the way for a more prosperous, greener, and inclusive Canada for all. And that is something Invest Ottawa and this community are very invested in. Furthermore, BDC's dedication to inclusive entrepreneurship is evident in their broader commitments, including a $50 million program offering loans and training for businesses majority owned by women, Indigenous, and Black entrepreneurs with revenues under $3 million. Collaborating with BDC's Thrive platform has been both an honor and a privilege. Their actions exemplify the translation of values into tangible action and impact, aligning seamlessly with our shared goals. Their integrity and proactive approach are truly an inspiration to us all, demonstrating that through collaboration, dedicated, and intentional effort, we can create a thriving ecosystem for women founders that take on the world. Mona and Michelle, I'm deeply saddened that you can't be with us today. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being incredible collaborators, leaders, and champions for our shared goals. We are incredibly grateful. Thank you.
Now I have the privilege of welcoming Emma Terrell to the stage. Emma is the owner of the Urban Botanist, who has the table at the back. She is a very successful entrepreneur, so if you've not checked her out, please make sure to check her out. She's an amazing entrepreneur, but an even more beautiful human. I can't wait for you to hear all about her. She will be sharing a little bit more about her business, and we'll also be welcoming our keynote speakers to the stage. Emma, welcome.
Can I just take this? I'm going to go for a walk. Hello, everyone. Hello, hello. I am so honored to be here today as part of the Invest Ottawa community, celebrating the incredible achievements of women in business. My name is Emma Terrell, and I am the founder of the Urban Botanist, a brand that was created to inspire people to connect with nature through hands-on interactive workshops, biophilic design, products, and digital content. When I first started the Urban Botanist, I had no idea what I was doing, literally no idea. I didn't even know where to go for support. And all I knew was that I had an idea that I wanted to create something that never existed before. And it's something that our speaker today has accomplished in a truly remarkable way. As I'm sure a lot of women who are founders, startups, and just women who are entrepreneurs to be can relate to in the crowd. The first few years of my startup were very lonely, very painstaking, and honestly just a lot. You know, we're juggling so many things. And I'm just gonna look at my notes, make sure I'm keeping up with this. We're back. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I had absolutely zero basic foundational business knowledge. Like, I had none at all, despite studying at Carleton University for 7 years. You'd think I would have taken one business course in those 7 years. No, sadly. The business courses were reserved for business students, and me being a biology major meant that I couldn't take any of those courses, which was really frustrating, but I persisted still. Yeah, we're good. One day, when I was in the beginning phases of defining my brand and its vision, I got a phone call from a complete total stranger who asked me, "Hey, do you do moss walls by any chance? Any chance you do moss walls?" And I was like, the professional that I was, absolutely we do moss walls. Open on my laptop, Google how to make a moss wall. Yes, we do moss walls. Definitely. That went on to be my first and biggest 5-figure client that I never, ever dreamed of experiencing or having. And it was all because I just said yes. You know that super technical term, what is it? Throwing spaghetti at a wall, that technical term. I was throwing bowls of it, bowls and bowls and bowls. I think it was Catherine Homemuth, the CEO of SheerTex, who was a speaker earlier this month that said, she actually called it the surface area approach. And that really resonated with me as something that works and something that worked really well for me. Witnessing women succeed and letting them tell their stories on stages like this is powerful. And it leads me to feeling so grateful for being a part of the Invest Ottawa's Accelerator Pilot Bootcamp as part of SBEC. It's been a program that I've been a part of for the last several months, and it has truly changed the way that I approach my business. From strategies to having mentors, it's really helped me to scale my e-commerce business to thrive differently. And I'm really, really grateful for that program. Being part of the Invest Ottawa's entrepreneurial community, where there are change makers, there are thought leaders, is so deeply inspiring. And it is what leads me to introduce our speaker today, who is making waves in the world of fine jewelry. And she has been such a beacon of what success can look like when you bring these ideas to life and when you push through glass ceilings, when you challenge the status quo, and when you redefine your industry, which I think is something that she's done really well. And she's not the only inspiring speaker that we'll have on stage. We'll also have Karen Grieve-Young as moderator, who is the CEO of Futurepreneur, an organization that has helped over 18,000 young Canadians who are also trying to become entrepreneurs. It's amazing. It's amazing. So please join me in giving a very warm welcome to the both of them. And once again, thank you so much, Invest Ottawa, for creating an amazing space where women can connect, grow, share their stories, and learn from one another. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. It's so special to be here with all of you. I want to first give a huge thank you to my dear friend Sonia Shori. We've been leaders together for a while and dreamed of doing this, and here we are. And to Invest Ottawa, you are so lucky to have this incredible place and platform, and we love partnering with Invest Ottawa. So thank you for being part of that community and for coming here today. Now, we're all here to hear from Noura, who is so incredible. And she, they say that businesses after a decade become overnight successes. I think you became an overnight success a while ago now. You've been in this for a while. And I know we've got founders at all different stages. Maybe you could share a bit about Mejuri's origin story. You were from a family of jewelers, but you were going to be an engineer. Mm-hmm. And now you're a jeweler.
Exactly. Yeah.
So share a little bit about how that came about.
So I've been born in jewelry. I'm third generation, so it's part of my DNA. But I never worked in the family business. I think I studied industrial engineering. I worked in consulting, took a complete detour. And the reason why I did that, because when I was looking in the family business, and I will paint a picture about the industry in general, when I was looking at the family business, it's a very traditional way of looking at jewelry. And when I say this, imagine like 10, 15 years ago, we were all taught that fine jewelry is a very exclusive product, like from a price point, even experience, everything's under glass. Something that you would wear on occasions, you kind of keep it in the box on a daily basis. And then it felt like big brands with a lot of marketing dollars are targeting men to buy for women, which is very traditional. Nothing is wrong with that, but it's also like a very small portion of what women want. And so none of these things resonated to me. So that's why I immigrated to Canada. I worked in consulting. And then when I started to make my own disposable income, I realized there's a lot of DTC brands that are popping up in every vertical. If I want to buy jewelry for myself, there was nothing that felt like I can necessarily go to and feel like this is a brand I want to be part of. So that's where the premise of Mejuri came from. It's essentially create a brand for women to buy jewelry for themselves. Very simplistic. And as we say, it's, buy yourself the damn diamond.
Yeah, exactly, which I love. And I think you've inspired a lot of people to do that over the years and indulge. I think I'm guessing we might have some Mejuri owners in the audience, or to come maybe after the gift cards, which is amazing. So when you got that idea and you decided to found Mejuri, mm-hmm. you wrote a business plan.
Yes.
I happen to have that business plan right here. So in 2012, you wrote this business plan. It was literally the gold standard business plan. You won awards for this plan.
Yes.
I wonder if the company that you've created resembles this plan from 12, 13 years ago. In what ways have you achieved exactly what you set out to achieve?
We changed so much. We actually, like the very first model, that business plan failed. So we started off as a crowdsourcing platform. The whole premise, so there's something about fine jewelry that I love. And I say this to the team. We take design and creativity, we take manufacturing, we take sustainability very seriously, but we have fun with how we introduce the products to market. So the premise of appreciating creativity has always been the essence of who we are. Initially, obviously, we thought that having a crowdsourcing platform where we put design briefs and have designers from all over the world submit their designs was going to be a way to foster creativity. But we realized soon after that, honestly, it's really hard to have a brand with a consistent POV and a consistent message when you sort of open it up to the world. It doesn't mean the designs are not creative. They're just not necessarily creating a brand. They're creating a marketplace. And what was very much missing in the market is a brand that talks to self-purchase, that's modern, that's a next generation brand. So that's why we decided we essentially relaunched in January 2015 in New York as a direct-to-consumer brand. And I'll just say one thing about redefining the industry. Obviously, it took us a lot, but a lot of people ask me, what is the moment that you felt Mejuri was successful? And everybody's expecting me to say, when we made this much money. But to be honest with you, the moment I felt Mejuri was onto something is when we started to receive emails from our customers and they said, I never used to buy myself jewelry. I don't know why. This makes complete sense. And that's when I realized we are creating a category defining brand, but it took quite a bit of trial and error to get there.
Oh, that's so amazing though, because you basically, the fact that you took that feeling of success from the customers, while empowering them is just that wonderful virtuous cycle. That's incredible. And I think it's fair to say that by any metric that exists, Mejuri is an extraordinary success. You
Thank you.
have more than 40 retail stores. You're in 4 countries. You have 1.3 million Instagram followers. And I have to tell a little bit of a story. In the very early days of Mejuri, Noura got support from Futurepreneur, and another entrepreneur you might know, Joanna Griffiths, also got funding from Futurepreneur in the very beginning and was on our board. And now Noura is on our board, which we're so grateful for. And I remember when I told Joanna that you were supported by Futurepreneur, and she said, seriously, that's a really big deal. Like we're doing our thing, but what Noura has built with Mejuri is huge. 1.3 million Instagram followers.
Thank you.
And incredible revenues.
Thank you.
Do you remember what you said 5 years in would be your revenues by chance?
No, I don't remember.
Do you remember what they were?
5 years in?
5 years in?
So that would have been 2020. I think we were sub 100 million at that point.
In your business plan, you wanted to get to 3.5 million. So
Really?
I think you more than
Wow,
did it. Yeah.
okay.
So very well done. Yeah. So aim modest and then shoot
yeah,
for the stars.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What did they say? Under promise and over deliver.
Yes, exactly. Very well done. Accomplished. And then along the way, you've obviously been so successful with revenues. That's huge. And that's helped to fuel your business. You've also gotten funding.
Yes.
And I think one of the things that Canadians have a reputation for, and particularly women, is aiming low, only asking for the bare minimum of what we need. And then there is also a model of you're measured by how much you raise.
Yeah.
How do you think about fundraising? And do you have advice for people in the room looking for funding?
Absolutely. So first of all, I think it's a choice. I think there is this, to your point, like I think of it as a vanity metric. In the beginning, people used to say, I raised this much money as an indication of success, but I think you may choose to raise money and you may choose to bootstrap, and either approach is really, really viable. I'm actually going to share a story. I never shared it before because I completely forgot about it. And my friend reminded me last year. I actually returned the very first check that I received for our seed financing. I returned it to the investor and I had no other leads. It was the only check that I have. And I think this is the advice that I'm when I look back, it's, first of all, I returned it because I didn't align with the investor at all from a value standpoint. He used to call me very frequently and I'm like, I don't want to take shortcuts in order to make gains. I want to make sure that I build a brand that has equity, and I don't want to take shortcuts. So I felt like this is not the person I want to partner with. And I think the piece of advice that I would say to everybody is, even when we have nothing, even when we're just starting out, you have the right to be picky. You have the right to be picky because looking at investors now, 10 years after, they are a very important part of your business. Even if they're a minority, they still can make it very easy for you or very tough for you. So I absolutely, like, the first piece of advice, be picky, even if you have nothing to prove. Obviously, the second piece of advice is like, open up your network. Don't necessarily just fundraise from Canada. Like, think of the US, think of the UK, think of Canada, open your network. And the piece that I would say don't be overly picky with, to be honest with you, is valuation. And I'm not saying we need to take a lower valuation, but I would say don't be, if the market is giving you a lot of data points, like, just be a little bit flexible in understanding what is the right valuation. One thing that becomes easier as you grow when you have numbers is you can look at public companies. You can look at their market cap. How are they evaluated? So you start to have actual methodology to valuation. In the beginning, it's really hard. So I used to ask a lot of people, like, how would you evaluate businesses to collect data points? Because if you shoot too high, it also can be a detriment for the company. So that's also an art where you're not overselling and you're not essentially getting a low valuation. So these are the three pieces I would think of.
So interesting. So it all kind of comes down to values. Obviously, the money matters, but the values of who you're working with and the way that the market is thinking about your company. Yeah. And Mejuri is more than a jewelry company. You're an empowering company. You have incredible social impact as a company, and I can see your pride. This is, as I mentioned your impact. Like, it's really incredible between your empowerment fund and your year of action committee. How have you chosen what to focus on? And how have you gone after that and integrated it into Mejuri?
So since the beginning, the whole idea of don't wait for a man to buy you jewelry, buy yourself the damn diamond. Obviously, we want everybody to buy jewelry, but there is a big empowerment component to it. The feeling is I choose the milestones that I celebrate. I choose the things that matter to me. And with the focus on women empowerment has been sort of true to the DNA from the beginning. And when we essentially started to evolve as a business, in 2020 was a year where a lot of maybe there's social injustice, there's also reckoning because what's happening in the world was crazy. So at that point, we weren't necessarily a massive business, but we said if we're never going to start, we're never, if we're going to wait until we're massive, we're never going to start. So we decided to create the Empowerment Fund in order to essentially give scholarships to women and non-binary people in underrepresented communities to gain skills. These skills I strongly believe if you have education, and it doesn't have to be traditional education, it means you can design your own life, which is at the essence of it is empowerment. So Year of Action was associated with empowering women, with women's health. In the US, we have a massive audience in the US. Majority of our business actually is in the United States. So we think of our community in Canada and the US, and therefore we cater to both audiences. And then we've done a lot on sustainability that I'm, happy to walk you through because I'm super proud of it.
Please walk us through what you've done with sustainability. Yeah, because that is really, the jewelry business is not always known for sustainability, and what you've built is extraordinary.
Sustainability is very near and dear to my heart. The way that I think about it, it should never be a value proposition. It should be something that you do because you truly believe in it. Once it becomes a value proposition, you're essentially optimizing for what the customer wants, and the customer probably knows surface level information. And you can do a lot more when you actually care about sustainability truly. So for example, we do a lot of work on traceability. We've committed 5 million in our empowerment fund by 2030. There's a lot of these that I say basics, right? These are what you would expect. We're tracing where our products are coming from, materials, who's manufacturing them. These things we've been very serious about. But we've also invested $1 million alongside massive companies in regeneration projects. Regeneration projects, they take old sites that are ruined because of mining. They re-mine through an innovative technique, and they remove toxins, and therefore the habitat comes back. And so we've had salmon come back to rivers because of that process, and we're the only jewelry company with salmon gold.
Really?
Yes. And so had we frankly thought about it as just, traceability is the most important thing, carbon neutral is just the most important thing, I don't think you would push yourself to think of how do I actually break this? How do I go to the next level? So sustainability has been so important, but I'm not going to pretend that it's something you can do when you first start a business. However, what I would say from the get-go, we were selective on who we work with. We were selective on using, for example, manufacturers who are RGC certified, which basically is Responsible Jewelry Council certified, meaning that they have a third-party governance on how they source and how they manufacture and how they treat their employees. So in the absence of you having to put these programs, try to align yourself with what exists in the industry. And as you start to grow, we started with a contractor, and I used to spend a lot of time with her. And now we have somebody who's super experienced leading sustainability. So it's a journey. And frankly, it's not perfect, and it's never going to be perfect, but at least you're doing something about it. And at least you're taking steps. And as you grow, continue to grow sustainability.
And it sounds like the way you've done it, you knew what you wanted to achieve, and then you had to build it as you grew.
Yes.
Right. So staying true to your values, true to what you wanted is incredible. And we didn't mention this question, but you talked about having a contractor, and now you have someone focusing on it. How have you built your team?
Team is probably the most important thing.
Absolutely.
The most important thing. And it's one of those things that I realize it takes. How have I built my team? That's a really good question. So here's because I know that there's people who are starting their businesses. In the beginning, you're wearing so many hats. And in the beginning, you're hiring people for the DNA of wanting to wear so many hats. And as you continue to grow, like let's say supply chain has always been important to us. And once it starts to crystallize, you start to hire specialists, not head of supply chain. I went for like head of fulfillment, head of planning, and then I stayed close to it. And then as it grew, and it grew to a degree where I'm like, I need to hire somebody 10 times better than I am. And at that point, you start to bring in specialists from the industry. But something that I've learned, even if you're bringing somebody who's been there, done that, or in a big company, because you will get pressure to hire these profiles, and they're super important. But the most important thing is to understand how entrepreneurial they are. Because if they come from big companies with a lot of infrastructure and they're unable to navigate that, what is good enough, and you don't need to build an empire in order to execute, is not a mentality that everybody has. And I also realized, oh. I also used to say at some point, like, I don't want to hire people from big companies. And I was wrong, because one of the best people in the business actually worked for one of the biggest jewelry companies in the world. But guess what? He built parts of that business from the ground up. So he was entrepreneurial inside a massive business. So you can imagine, A, he has entrepreneurial spirit, and B, he has amazing expertise. The other thing that I would add to that, because I personally have been learning a lot about building a team, because that's, as we said, foundational, is one thing that I learned over the past couple of years. We've done a lot of changes in terms of our team, is hold yourself accountable to knowing what excellent looks like. And that also applies to you. Because in growth businesses, your business is changing every year, every 2 years. It literally is, the most exciting thing is when it actually changes to the better. But then if you're complacent, and if you're staying in the day-to-day, you're not going to ask yourself, am I the best CEO for this stage of the business? What is a world-class or a best excellent look like for this function at this stage of the business? And am I holding myself and my peers accountable for these standards for the sake of the business?
That's incredible. So the way that you've evolved as a leader, as Mejuri, because how many employees, this team you've built has how many people on it now?
Retail, so corporate is about 250 overall, with retail is about, I want to say 1,000.
Wow, that's a huge team. That's really amazing. And then as you've evolved as a leader with this team, you've worked on things, and you've been really open about yourself as a work in progress as a leader. I think we all need to be works in progress. Where have you seen real progress in the way that you've worked? Like, where have been some maybe pivots that you've taken in your leadership style, not just going direct to indirect, but more broadly?
Yeah, honestly, the moment I started the business, I realized that I have so much to learn. I think to Emma's point, you go through a lot of degrees, and that does, even if you studied business, frankly, so don't feel bad about that. Like, I think nothing teaches like being on the job. And I realized that I need to learn a lot. And so my way of learning is surrounding myself with really amazing people. And I would learn from anybody. I would take data. It doesn't mean that I have to apply everything. I love hearing people's perspective. People have been there, done that. And then I have conviction and POV about my business, and I would apply what makes sense. And in moments of doubt, when you surround yourself with amazing people, you're essentially having them cover your blind spots. And sometimes I'm very open. I'm like, this is what I'm thinking about. Challenge me. Where could it go wrong? Like, that's one form of working through it. But you asked me about maybe how my leadership had evolved. And I think, from in the beginning, you're doing everything yourself. You know all the details. You are involved in everything. And I think as you grow, letting go and hiring somebody who's better than you, way better than you, is actually a process of evolution, because you're no longer doing the work and you have to trust, but you have to check and verify. And finding that balance is an evolution. And frankly, it has also an emotional component, because you're letting go of parts of your business. But once you get there, it's so freeing that now you can look at the big picture, or solve problems, or think of other things, or what's next. And it feels like there's a constant evolution, essentially.
It must be really crazy, actually, sometimes you must see marketing where every now and then you're almost taken aback, and it's your brand. You built everything about it, but there's something new and wondrous that you see.
Yeah, sometimes there's things that happen. I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. This is super. It's like,
what a great brand.
Wow.
Yeah, that's incredible. What a great feeling. Yeah. And yet, I think we've focused a lot on all the things that have gone really well. You said no to that first investor, but obviously you raised the money that you needed to build the business, because you've built this amazing business that was 30 times your 5-year goal. You probably hit some pitfalls and obstacles along the way as well. Can you share how you've gotten through some of those?
Yeah, there's tons, and it's like I'll start by saying challenge is part of building a business, and at some point I had to sit with myself and say challenges are going to come. It's like how you look at them is going to change your outlook, because when you expect that this is going to happen, I'm not saying I want to attract negativity, but I'm saying it's part of the process. But just to stay relevant for the audience too, is I think the first challenge one would face is product market fit, and it's probably one of the most challenging things. And it's so easy if you are in the startup ecosystem, which I was part of, and a lot of kind of tech entrepreneurs and specific profiles where with fake it till you make it, you're like, what the heck is happening? Why am I the only one who's not doing well? It becomes really important at some point to realize what is a vanity metric and what's a real metric. And so when I was in that ecosystem, there was a lot of mention about fundraising. How many employees do you have? What is PR coverage that you got? Like things that at the end of the day actually do not matter when you're trying to do product market fit, but everybody around you uses those as success metrics. And so one of the most important things is be close to your customer and listen to your customer and put all the KPIs, qualitative, quantitative, to understand what do they like about the product, about the experience, what do they not like, and how do we evolve super quickly, and kind of remove the noise of everything else until you figure out what is it that I'm offering my customer from a product, from a design, from an experience standpoint that resonates, and then I'm going to double down on that. That I think is one of the most important lessons that I've learned, and frankly, it came out of constraints, because my fundraising experience for the seed financing was very tough. It was 6 months, which 6 months in the life of a startup is very long. And at that point, when you have constraints, you become smarter. I call them healthy constraints. And when you become smarter, essentially you start to prioritize. It becomes very clear to you that I don't really care if I don't know what publication said what about us. I really care if customers are buying and coming back. And then you become focused on that. That's one of many.
Do you have an early product where you just nailed that customer fit and it was the product everyone wanted and you didn't know it until they were buying it?
I still remember to this day. So in the beginning, we launched primarily silver and vermeil. And I remember to this day, we used to manufacture in Canada because it was small batches. And our first more everyday aesthetic in 14K in diamonds, our first batch that I took from the manufacturer, I almost teared up when I looked at them. And I'm like, this is it. Like, this is what's been missing. This material, this design, this story. And once we launched that, we started to find partnerships. Even at the time, like social media influencers was still up and coming. And it was so easy, like momentum started to come. And I feel like at that moment, I realized there's something here.
Oh, that sounds so amazing.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
And you, you're a CEO and you're wildly successful. You're also a woman and a mom and a partner. And there's a lot of juggling that you do in your life. How do you make time for you? How do you recharge your battery? How do you make sure your cup doesn't get empty?
Yeah, it's a great question, because I have twins. They're 6, so you can imagine it's very busy. But frankly, I think I abandoned the idea of thinking of balance on a daily basis, and I think of it an overtime thing. So I'm not a creature of habit, so this works for me. I can't do the same thing every single day, but I know every week I have to work out 2 to 3 times a week, for example, minimum. I have to see my friends once. Non-negotiable, like putting my kids to bed. Like there's kind of like posts that I put, because when I'm in a creative mindset, I'd like to double down on that. It doesn't come every single day when you're in a creative mindset. So I need to work as many hours as I can at that day. But there are times when I feel like I need to take a step back, and I take a step back, rejuvenate. So I found this kind of formula works for me. And I also am learning about tools, frankly, like breathing, things like that I can deploy within the day that would reset, my nervous system. Very small things that in the past I used to think, balance every single day. And I think that puts pressure that is not attainable, because sometimes I really want to work more, and that's okay. And I'm going to do that.
Yeah, you almost take a portfolio approach to your life.
Yes.
Yeah,
exactly.
Sort of having everything that you need in the portfolio in the right balance, but not necessarily at the same time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And over time, it kind of all looks better. On a daily basis, some things will suffer and some things will be better.
Right. But in the overall, it
Yeah.
works. Yeah. That's a great way of thinking about it.
Yeah.
We also, you just joined the Futurepreneur board this
Mhm.
year,
Mhm.
which is amazing. We're so grateful to have you there.
Thank you.
It's so important. And I love the voices of the entrepreneurs here at Invest Ottawa. Like, it's really important to have the entrepreneurs who succeeded with your support in the room when you're making decisions. And we recently had a board meeting talking about, there's some conversations around trade right now, right? There's a large market to our south that has become interesting. And we were just having a really great conversation about the way that Canadian entrepreneurs think about markets and think about exporting. You've been doing it for a while now, and I won't ask you to think about what's in the future, but when you first started, how did you think about balancing the risks and rewards of exporting and just how do you go about it?
Yeah, so we actually launched from the get-go with the mindset of we're launching in Canada and the United States. The United States by, putting all of the what's happening now aside. So let's talk about size of the market. It's 10 times bigger than the Canadian market, and our product is very small and it's easy to ship. And there's a lot of commonality between also our preferences as the two countries, like as consumer preferences. And so from the get-go, we launched with both countries in mind. And so we've been, I would say 60% of our business is in the US, 30% is in Canada, and the rest is the rest of the world. And so I would encourage everybody to think of their market in a larger capacity, whether it be at the US, whether it be at Europe, whatever that makes sense for you. But from the get-go, try not to limit to one geography that if your product or your logistics permits. And then what started to happen is we started to establish, like, obviously being online is amazing because you have a global approach. And then we started to see customers are gravitating towards us in the UK. And so we opened UK stores. And then Australia, we opened an Australia store. So then you start to follow your customers. And obviously all of them are English speaking countries because our marketing is. Probably it takes a little bit more, a different model when you want to go into countries with different language. But so far, this has been our journey from the beginning. And I get reminded by my partners because we had less than $40,000 in our bank account when we first started. We were in a room in Montreal in Founder Fuel, and I had on the wall the #1 global jewelry brand for modern women. Like, that's what I had is the vision.
All right.
We literally had nothing. And now they're like, you were crazy and we were crazy. And I'm like, yes, I think we were all delusional, but look where we are. You gotta start.
That deserves a round of applause. That's so incredible.
Thanks.
Yeah, I think that's where you are.
Yeah.
For women and for women buying for themselves, these amazing
Thank you.
pieces. It's been fun indulging while I've gotten to know you. So that's and I love what you just shared. So that's really interesting. Follow your customers. You talked before about the product market fit.
Mm-hmm.
But then you followed your customers. And it just occurred to me, you were online for a long time before you had your first store. How long?
We opened our first store, I want to say 2017. And frankly, you know how we opened it? We opened it because customers in Toronto, they used to say, during the holidays, we used to host them in our office because they wanted to touch and feel the product. So we're like, okay, come. So we'd be working and customers are here trying the product. And we're like, okay, we'll open a showroom, not even an inventory. And then we realized that people who are showing up to the showroom, 60% are new customers. So we realized it's a growth channel for us. And now we obviously realize only 1 in 5 transactions for fine jewelry happens online. So the sky's the limit with retail. And so it started our journey. 2018, we opened New York. And then 2019, I think we had a few in Canada and the US. And then COVID happened. And then now we're accelerating.
Yeah, it's really amazing. And your partnership with Holtz is really fun.
It is. We love it. We love it. Our office is on top of Holtz Bloor. So I go and check in a lot.
Is it in Holtz, Ottawa?
Just Vancouver and Toronto.
Vancouver and Toronto. So if you wanted to go to Holtz and lobby to see if you could get it there too. Yeah, but that's incredible. Yeah, and it's great to see the way that you've expanded your retail and your fit. So
thank you.
Before we turn it over to the audience, maybe there might be a question or a piece of advice that you have. I mean, you heard different stages of founders and you've given great, I'll say gold nuggets of advice throughout the conversation, but is there anything that you'd love to leave everyone with as they embark on their entrepreneurial journey?
I think one, I would say, operating mode that I believe in is the principle of compounding. And so what I mean by that is show up every single day and do your best every single day and point your organization, and you're not going to feel like every single day you're having wins, but over time this creates momentum. And when people ask me what did you do to achieve success, frankly it is this: it's showing up even when things are uncertain, doing your best even when things are uncertain, and before you know it, things start to compound. So show up and be your best for your team.
And I'm going to say, just give yourself some grace too, because as you said, every day you don't achieve, but if you show up every day with that intention,
Exactly.
you'll get where you want to go.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. That's a great, yeah, I love that. Compounding as a principle.
Yeah.
Love that.
Thank you.
Maybe we'll turn it over to.
So I have 3 questions here. How many times did you feel giving up in the first 2 years? And then what did you, like, how did you convince yourself and motivate yourself to continue?
Honestly, a lot in the beginning. It was really tough because I would say I've always been an overachiever. It's part of my DNA. And so when I started to feel like I'm failing, it was crazy pressure. And so questioning a lot, like whether I should continue or not. Um, and frankly, there's a couple of things. I think when you're starting something, you're starting it because there's a crazy amount of passion towards and belief and conviction towards a vision that you have. And if you wake up every single day with that, you start to ask yourself, like, if I don't do this or give it all my best, would I regret this 5-10 years down the line? And if the answer is yes, then you continue. The other thing that I used to do to help myself is to basically say, what is the worst thing that can happen? It doesn't work. And if it doesn't work, what's going to happen? I can go back to work. And so when you start to get a little bit more comfortable with the worst case scenario, I think it gives you a little bit more power. And now, because I'm working on being a lot more positive, I also ask myself, what is the best case scenario? So that it gives you a little bit of power. But to be honest with you, I can't also undermine the impact of people around me, like my husband, my friends. Like, I had close people who were able to hear me out, to support me, and you need that community around you. And sort of the combination of these things. But you have to have that conviction, you have to have that power, because it doesn't make sense. Like, nothing makes sense in the beginning. It doesn't make sense to start something from scratch, and you have to power through it.
And it's lonely being a CEO. It's even harder when you're a CEO of the business that you created yourself.
Yeah, a lot of responsibility and a little bit lonely, they say. Yeah.
Hi, Maya.
Hi.
Thank you so much for this. It was really inspirational to hear you speak, and a great way to end International Women's Month and to kick off Arab Heritage Month too. So thank you. You talked a little bit about the importance of having a global mindset when you're building. Can you share some lessons or experiences from going global, and like what that might look like in terms of, I know you said you follow your market, but what does that look like in terms of like finding new markets, and what have you learned?
It's a great question. Honestly, right now we're still in the process of figuring this out. Obviously, the dream of making Mejuri a global jewelry brand is absolutely still there. And now it becomes more of how can we duplicate this in different geographies and customize it, and it becomes more of frankly, a business exercise in certain ways. So I'll give you an example. If we are to open in the Middle East, would we do a franchising model? Would we do a joint venture? Would we open our owner-operated stores? So it becomes more of because we're covering the English-speaking countries, the countries that have a very similar culture. But then when you start to go into different cultures and different places, you will need operators on the ground. And we don't do wholesale. So that's another thing. If you do wholesale, it's much easier. You'll find distributors. I'm talking about your own brand. So it becomes trying to figure out what is the best business model by geography. And that business model may not be, for example, the best business model for Asia. So at this point, we use international consultants, and we talk to them about if we want to expand to these geos, what would it look like? There's an assessment of the market in terms of our customer base, our value prop. Does it resonate? Does it not resonate? Do we have to tweak anything about it? And then it becomes more of frankly, a business exercise, if that makes sense. Yeah.
I have a question from online. Can you share the biggest challenge you faced when trying to access funding or financial resources in the early days?
I think I touched on this super quickly. When I was, first of all, obviously, I didn't grow up in Canada, so I don't have a lot of connections. So that's like one obstacle that maybe is unique to me. Secondly, everybody was pitching AI and I was pitching jewelry. So I don't think that was very enticing. So I had to really pull a lot of strings to get meetings. I will tell you what. So it took me 6 months. 6 months is very, very long in a time frame of a very early stage startup. What I've done about this is I joined tech or business accelerators in order to improve my network, because like I said, I had to start somewhere. And you would be surprised by the amount of people who are willing to help if you ask. And if you show up, and frankly, if you show up every day and do your best and they see you do that, they're going to have more belief in you and they're going to open doors. And just show up, do your best, and ask for introductions, look into their networks and say, can I meet with this person or that person? And prepare yourself that there could be, I don't know, maybe 50 no's until you get to one yes. And they used to say every no gets you closer to a yes. But really prepare for the fundraising process is not something that is going to be easy, especially in the early days, because you still don't have the numbers to back it up. And go in with the whole, like the funnel idea. You put so much into the funnel and you end up with a few yeses and you start to build from there. Once you have a yes, then other investors will start to get interested. So the first yes is really, really important. It builds momentum.
Do you remember who your first yes was?
Because we've done a
So
slew
many,
of different,
yes.
but there's a name that stands out for me that helped so much is Janet Bannister.
Yeah, she's wonderful.
Yes. Yeah. And the reason why I'm very passionate about mentioning this is because if we don't have women representation in key positions, such as fundraising, honestly, like nobody's going to hear to my pitch, and my pitch is catered towards women. And it's a massive market. It is not like a small play. And so she's opened up a lot of doors for me.
That's amazing. That's great to hear.
Hi. This is exciting because I lead workshops here in brand strategy, and I actually use Mejuri as a case study in like 2019, 2020.
Oh, nice.
Because I love the idea of, in my past life at agencies, I actually worked on a major Canadian jewelry brand. And it was all about gift giving. So I loved how you carved out the self-gifting idea for women. And now I see you have men's jewelry as
everybody.
well.
Everybody's
Everyone
welcome.
can buy themselves jewelry, which is great.
Yeah.
So another fun fact that I shared in the workshop is that you raised, is it 20 million in Series B funding while pregnant with twins?
Yes.
Yeah. So after the SheerTech's Catherine Homuth's amazing intro to the month, I was talking to some women here and everyone was so inspired and excited. But then there was also a chatter of, I've got young kids, how do we balance this? And I know I also feel kind of guilty asking this because would I ask a man? But the reality is that women deal with this.
Yeah.
We're mothers, right?
Yeah.
And that's not to downplay men. Men are awesome. However, how did you balance this? Like, did you have a community? And I know it's in choosing the right partners and right investors, but just in your personal life.
You mean like fundraising in general while being a mother and pregnant, or you mean like running a business?
I mean, a little bit of both, but
Okay.
also like you have 2 babies at home.
Yes.
And you're building this amazing brand and making time for it and prioritizing it and dealing with postpartum hormones and all that fun jazz. So yeah,
I can offer perspective here. So my husband and I are partners in the business, and I have to say, like, we're pretty equal at home and at work. So that's like the behind the scenes is very important, because I can't paint a crazy picture that I've done it all by myself. That's not true. I did have a community. When I was fundraising, for example, I made it my job. So everything else took second priority. And in the work hours, I focus on fundraising, and I go from one pitch to another, to the extent that I used to joke, if my kids can pitch Mejuri by now because they've heard me pitch like what, I don't know, 7 hours of pitching Mejuri. So I think that was important. And for us, I'm going to be like serious. We put off having kids for a while until we were in a position where we can hire help, because I knew that it was because my family is not here. If my family was here, that's a different situation. So we kind of, were aligned in the sense that I could hire some help. My partner is also very helpful when I can prioritize fundraising. He's prioritizing the business. So I never did everything all by myself. It takes a village to build something. And sometimes finding those people in your business is really, really important. Dedicating focus time is really, really important. And that's how I've done it. And it's not easy. And it still remains to be a challenge. It feels a little bit easier from a time standpoint right now. Like I will tell you, I work less hours than before because I have a lot of people who work with me. But frankly, the magnitude of the issues that I have to deal with feels like a heavier weight. So my brain is probably a lot more tired than it used to be in the past, but I used to work so many more hours. So it doesn't change. It doesn't get easier. You just get more experienced with it over time. And you're able to also prioritize over, like when you have kids, what is truly a priority and what can wait until tomorrow. And before kids, I didn't have that perspective. It's called Parkinson's law. Like every task took as much as it wants. And now I can finish the same task in a shorter period of time. I don't know if that offers a perspective, but for sure lean in on people around you. And for sure, I hope if you have a partner, have an agreement with them to also help. Yeah.
While we wait for the next question, can I just say a big thanks to everyone in the audience, because as entrepreneurs, your time is your most valuable resource, and you gave a couple hours of it to join us today. So thank you for doing that. We really appreciate it.
I'll also mention, so sorry, I'm now thinking about your question too, is it's not easy because I went back to work after 3 months. And that is the only thing when I look back at my journey that I regret. The only thing I don't have zero regrets in my life. That's the only thing that I would say. I wish that I had stayed with my kids for 6 months at least, but I had to go back because we had just raised Series B. So frankly, it's not easy at all. And hormonal and all, I had pre-eclampsia. I had like a really tough condition towards the end. But I don't know, you power through it and then it becomes trauma and then you solve it in the future. Yeah, it's a future problem.
Thank you for sharing that.
Another online question. What advice do you have for someone who wants to get started in the business but has no knowledge of the business world, no family history, et cetera, et cetera?
Honestly, there's so much now. Very simple, like even starting with Chat GPT and asking questions. Like I research and I still and now use AI if I want to learn about a topic. I would highly recommend being part of business incubators or accelerators where you can be with like-minded people and starts to show you the path. Talking to other people who have been there, done that will also start to show you the path. Nobody, honestly, somebody once told me nobody in the startup world knows anything, if that makes sense, because everybody's doing everything for the first time. And once you realize that everybody is on a journey of discovery, persistence, and hard work, I think it just becomes like that's the recipe.
And can I make a shameless plug again for Invest Ottawa and all the programs you have for founders here? And Sam Fortier is there in the third row. Can you wave your hand? Sam is on our Futurepreneur team based here in Ottawa, and we have a team across the country, including a Rock My Business series for Rock My Business idea, plan, cash flow, for some of that business expertise to help people get started.
That's amazing. Yeah.
I have a question over here. I'm Jenna. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Silver Swallow. We make a bubbly, not boozy, non-alcoholic wine alternative. And I'm at the point where I can't do everything myself and launched across Canada and into the US. And I really like what you said about trying to find people who have that startup mindset, who aren't looking for perfection, who aren't looking for bosses that have everything figured out. And I found one, and she's amazing, but kind of by fluke. And I wondered, how do you go about in your process finding those people? Do you have certain techniques that work in order to really suss out who's going to be resilient, roll with the punches, and have a great attitude?
I try to scare them during the interview process.
Tell me more.
I get very real about what it takes to build something. First of all, I don't go for somebody in the beginning super experienced. I think I go for somebody who's got the personality, the culture that we want, the results oriented, and you can see through their experience that they're, competitive, results oriented. These things are very easy to figure out through the interview process. But I get super real up until this point that things are not perfect. Sometimes we don't have enough money to do this. Sometimes we can't hire VPs for you. What would you do? Like, this is what it's not a 9 to 5 job sometimes, and that's what it takes. And do you want to join on this journey or not? Because there's no shame. There's people who want the stable kind of job, but that's not us. And we talk about this all the time. It's not for everybody, and that's okay. We're not better or worse. We're just not for everybody. And owning that, I think, is super important.
Hi, Oni here. Thank you for giving us the permission to buy the damn diamond. I'm going to go home and do that. I love what you said about social impact and what you're doing with the Women's Empowerment Fund. How does that strengthen your business? How do both kind of feed into each other?
I think, to be honest, it doesn't necessarily strengthen the business per se, but it's an amazing thing to work for. Even when you think about the ethos of the brand is empowerment, and when our employees show up to work and they know that we do this, imagine how much power they have. So it has nothing to do with the P&L. It has to do with the mission of the business. And being a modern brand right now is not about selling a product. Like, we can all manufacture. It's about being a brand with values, with a POV. And part of that POV is what are you doing for the world? And so part of that's what we chose to do. These are the things that we chose to do. And I don't believe that you can be a modern brand if you're just designing and selling products. You have to stand for something. And so I think it makes, for me personally, I always say it makes, in the toughest moments, when I think about the people who had come to us and said how we've been part of their journey, whether be it on a positive, celebrating something positive, or coming out of something negative and celebrating victory, or even frankly, I didn't realize that my journey had influenced people, whether it be they're newcomers or women. And when I see these things, it just makes the toughest moments in the business, and there's a lot of them because of what's happening in the world, so much more fulfilling and rewarding. I hope that answers your question.
Hi, my name is Gloria, and I own a non-toxic home fragrance company. And predominantly, most of my sales are in person at markets. And because of the fact that Mejuri started mostly online, I've been finding it really difficult to transition into an online space. Like, how did Mejuri grow organically online as an e-commerce business?
Yeah, it's a good question. And I think, frankly, your product, because it's got the scent part, I can understand that it's easier in person. What I would say when we were starting, so we didn't start spending a cent on paid advertisement until I want to say 2018. So that was like 3 to 4 years after we started. But however, we were working a lot with, so one of the premise of the brand's pillars is accessibility. And part of accessibility is not just the price point. It's also, we don't have glass in our store, so you can touch and feel the product. And the third pillar of the third way that accessibility shows up is we are on Real Women, nothing too crazy and aspirational. And so we started to work with social media influencers and partner with them on how to showcase the products. At that time, YouTube, Instagram partners was kind of relatively new, and the algorithm was in our favor. I don't know, right now is a completely different situation. So we used to partner with them. You could also partner to co-create products together, which is you would align incentives, because that's one of the most important things in partnerships is creating a win-win. If I were you, I would look at a partnership model where they're creating with you something that you can essentially launch together. And access an audience online. And then when you do sales in person, sorry, I love business, so maybe I'm too much detail. I would try to get emails. And when I get emails, I'll start email marketing campaigns. So try to stay in touch with every single person who's bought from you and keep them in the know of what you're working on, and try to expand your audience through partnerships and placements and other brand partnerships too.
That's such great concrete advice. That's amazing.
Okay, well, that wraps up our Q&A round, and I just want to take a moment and say thank you so much, Karen and Noura, for all that you've shared. A big round of applause, please.
Thank you.
And that was just absolutely amazing and so inspirational. So thank you so much. And look at all the notes that I wrote on things that I'm going to take away. But the biggest things I think that I learned was that you need to be a little bit crazy. Things will always change from the first time you start to throughout the years. Do what you truly believe in. Create that impact. Make sure you have the most important thing around you, which is your team and your community, and building that together. And just ask for what you want and go buy yourself a damn diamond, right?
Thank you.
Yes. All right, so I've got a few more thank yous to go through here. First of all, I want to extend a huge thank you to our title event sponsor, BDC Capital's Thrive Venture Fund, and our supporting sponsor, Futurepreneur Canada, for making this event possible. I also want to extend a thank you to our caterers for the evening, for this evening. This evening? Where am I? Today? There is still, look at that table over there. People, please grab some food on your way out. And so that is our SPEC clients, Delights by Mama, and our SPEC clients over here at 850 Coffee. So make sure you grab a coffee on your way out. Thank you so much for providing such great food and beverages for our event. Don't forget the Women United table in the lobby. Make sure to follow Women United, Urban Botanist, Delights by Mama, 850 Coffee. Follow them on social media. Make sure you know what they're doing. So thank you for being here. Now it is time for our feedback. So please, you'll notice here on our screen, we have a QR code. As I mentioned at the very beginning, please make sure to provide us your feedback. Those of you who are online, thank you so much for being with us online. And make sure to fill in that QR code, because your feedback is very valuable. And finally, I would really like to thank all of you for taking the time to be with us today and joining us as we continue to inspire, connect, and equip women founders and leaders from every walk of life. And as I promised, we have gifts. So how do we do the gifts? So thank you all for being here. Way this is going to work is we have 10 $100 gift cards from Mejuri, and we are reserving 4 of those gift cards for those people that are completing the survey. So Thursday, I think we said, we will do a random draw with 4 for the 100 gift cards, and those winners, we will be in touch with you. So please make sure to fill in the survey. That gives you a chance. The remaining 6 will be announced in a second, because we also have Emma, who has provided us 5 of her terrarium kits that are up for grabs, as well as a bunch of lapel pins. So those are available too. How do you know if you win? Look under your chairs. Yes, under your chairs. Mejuri winners over here with Audrey. Emma winners back with Emma. That was amazing. Oh, thank you. Oh, just amazing. And that's a wrap. Enjoy the rest of your day, everyone. Thank you.